Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back. There are so many benefits of standing while you throw. It's easier on your back, it's easier to manage the pots when you're throwing. You can just pick them up off the wheel and go and set them on a wear rack or set them on a table. I like to make a bunch of pots and spread them out on the table. And so it's much easier to manage those pots. You can get up and grab tools without having to stand up and sit down, stand up and sit down. So there's so many benefits of standing and throwing. I'm always trying to make my classroom more efficient and just a better place for students to learn. So I wanted to create some wheel stands where they could stand up and throw, but I wanted them to be something that could be moved around and easy to clean around. I wanted them to be sturdy. I wanted them to be adjustable, so more than people of different heights could use them. I want them to be long lasting, and I just wanted them to make a really good product. So it took a little bit of time to figure out how to make some stands to support a Brent wheel, and I want to share that with you here today. So stay with me because we're going to weld up some stands for one of these Brent wheels. All of the metal that I used for this project was either scrap that I'd found out at the dumpster at school, or it was leftover from a barbecue that I built a couple years back. The good news is it was all cheap or free. The bad news is I had to spend about an hour with my angle grinder and a flat disc grinding all the surface rust. And then I used my angle grinder to bevel the corners. It's really important while you're MIG welding like this to get the metal really clean. It's just going to weld up really smoothly, and you're going to have a nice strong bond. And this will be somewhat structural since it's going to hold up a 126 pound Brent wheel. From there it was just measuring it all and getting it fit up before I tacked it all together. I'm working on a piece of paper here which I know is not conventional. What I did was I had one of the really awesome students in my class trace around the bottom of the wheel, because at school we have 208 3-phase, so I can't use my welder on the school voltage. And so I'm going to weld it here at my house, but to make sure it's perfect, I'm going to keep it on this piece of paper and I'm going to do some tack welds to make sure it's perfectly in place. I'm working on the floor here because it's the flattest surface I have. And once I have it all tacked together, then I can move it up higher and get it all nice and welded together. But this is just a little extra step I'm taking to make sure it's perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and tack this now. Now it's all tacked up, so we're going to let this cool down for a minute. We'll tack the other one up and then go ahead and fill in the rest of the weld. We are ready to weld this thing up. I have it all leveled and squared out and my ground clamp on there. I'm gonna do it just like before. I'm gonna tack it up and then I'm gonna let it cool down for a minute and then I'm gonna put a couple welds on here. I did end up having to use a wheel to get this thing perfectly straight. I do want to take a chance of it being a little crooked, so I went and got a wheel and put it on here. For some reason, my Brent wheel, it either must have got bent or something, but mine's a little bit different shape than all the rest of them that I've measured. So I couldn't use my wheel, so I had to borrow this one. But anyway, fits on there perfectly. I got it all leveled up. I got it all ready to weld. I'm going to tack it up and then weld it together. Now the next step was to weld some end caps onto the steel tube. And to do this, I used some salvaged 1/4-inch plate that I found at the dumpster at our school. It was the remains of an old weight bench. and I tacked it and I welded it onto the end of the tubes to create the end caps. And this is going to serve as a foundation for the casters that'll help it roll. I've run into my first major problem of this build, and it is with this leg right here. This leg, as you can see, has this motor plate, and so my idea is that these steel tubes, we're going to slide up the leg, and you'll be able to raise and lower it depending on your height. Now, currently it sits at 24 inches off the ground, and I think most people that stand up and throw on a cinder block. In other words, they have their wheel raised up on a cinder block, and a cinder block is about 15.5 inches. So with this steel tube, now I'm 6'4", so I throw on my wheel, and my wheel is 24 inches off the ground. In other words, the legs start at 24 inches off the ground. But someone shorter than me would want their wheel lower. And so we have this distance right here in between where the pipe can go. In other words, it can slide up all the way to here, and then it's going to hit that little rubber or metal thing right there. And so that distance is about 6 3/4 inches. So if you take 24 and subtract 6 3/4, you're going to get around 17 1/4, somewhere like that. So it's going to be about 2 inches higher than I think most people throw on a wheel like this. So I don't really want to, but I think I'm going to have to cut down. I'm going to leave this one up high for the tall throwers. We do have several throwers that are tall, but I'm going to cut the next set of pipes down a couple inches. I don't really want to, but I'd like to have a full range of motion between tall and short, but it looks like I'm going to have to make one set a little shorter than I'd like. So I'm just going to cut those down there. The next step was to rip down a piece of 4x4 pine to 2 3/4, and this is going to slide inside of that tube to support the pottery wheel. To make it adjustable, I cut several pieces of the 4x4 at 2 inches, so I have little 2-inch blocks that you can slide in the tube to raise the wheel. So the wheel is going to start at a base height at 16 inches, and then you can raise it in 2-inch increments. The little blocks have a little hole in them, and that little hole in the block is to put your finger in to help you pull it out of the tube. It actually works perfect, and I'm so glad I did it. Now, in the end, I couldn't be more happier with this project. I did leave the height, so the height of the tube is 24 inches. I did not change that, and it seems to work just great, so I'm really glad I just left it alone. The one thing I'm going to change, though, is I'm going to take off the wheels. And the reason why I'm going to take off the wheels, and if I was going to build this again, I wouldn't put the wheels on there. And the reason for this is it narrows the width of the stands, and it can make them become tippy. So I'm concerned about the safety with the wheels on there, so I'm going to end up just eliminating the wheels. They're going to have a flat bottom. They seem to slide pretty good on the floor when you need to clean them, to move them to clean them. So I don't think that the wheels are necessary. They would be nice to have, but the safety risk just isn't worth it. So I'm going to eliminate the wheels. If I were to make this again, I wouldn't put the wheels on it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please leave a like, a comment. Those comments really keep me going. It makes it motivating for me to keep making these videos. So if you did make it this far, please click the like, subscribe to see more, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.